You're listening to Permission to Shine, the podcast by Sherisse Bisram. The Oxford Dictionary describes permission as the action of officially allowing someone to do a particular thing, consent, authorization. What if you were that someone and you gave yourself the permission to be everything you wanted to be and more? No more playing small and accepting less than. You are worthy of the life of your dreams, regardless of what it is that you've been through. And honestly, it's exactly what you've been through that has shaped you into the version of yourself that you are now. Like a diamond, you've endured so much, but instead of breaking, you have become stronger and brighter. And if that's not a reason to shine, then I don't know what is. And if nature can do it, then why the hell can't you? You are brave, you are strong, you are powerful, and you are enough. Hear my call and give yourself the permission to shine, because you don't realise how many people are inspired by your light. Like, share, follow, subscribe, and listen out for more. Stay tuned. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 12. So usually I try to plan this so it's quite open conversations. You can listen at any point, and you also can listen to this one at any point, but I wanted to focus more on the astrological energies that are coming up at the moment, because I think a lot of people have been through a really turbulent time recently, and it is reflective of what's going on in the skies. So I think that I just wanted to give people clarity more than anything. So this one is more topical to the current time, but equally, if you come across it and you listen to it, hopefully you'll find insight in there, just because obviously the planets and the placements they are relative if you are, within that sign or you have placements in that sign. So to start off, I just want to give you a summary of astrology. So basically, in every single style of astrology, so there's lots of different variation, we can sort of sum it down to the Eastern and Western astrology. So Western astrology is, the general horoscopes that you see and you hear spoken about quite a lot. The Eastern astrology is sidereal, Vedic, and there's another one, topical, which is more Western. And the Western one it tends to be what you see in like magazines and things like that, but that's a very, very overview. Now, within each style of astrology, there are 12 different houses, and the 12 houses represents different parts of you. So generally, I think people just refer to astrology as, oh, my sun sign is, that's what I am. Actually, there is a whole combination of codes that make up who you are. That's why you might find that, say, for example, you and your best friend are the same star sign, but you're very different. This is why, because we're not just this one thing. That's not the whole of us. It's an umbrella for everything else that's underneath it. A bit like a pie, or a quiche. You put lots of different things into a quiche to make it what it is. It's the same with astrology. So, the 12 houses represent different things. Now, I could go on for ages about what the different houses mean and all these different things, but it does get very confusing as an overview. So I'm going to try and keep it as generic and specific as possible with what's relevant right now, and hopefully that makes a bit more sense. So currently it is the end of May, and we're coming just out of Taurus season into Gemini season. So Taurus is all about a slower pace of life. So we've just come out of like the Aries energy, which is all fire, all steam ahead, whereas Taurus is an earth sign. They like to take their time, they're patient, slow and steady wins the race. But Taurus also represents luxury. It represents work. It represents finances. And that's because it's ruled by Venus. Each star sign has a planet that it's ruled by. So Aries is ruled by Mars. So planet of war, just to give you an idea of kind of to summarize what's going on at the moment. So we've just finished the end of Taurus season, and we ended it with a new moon in Taurus. Now, if you know anything about moons, what I like to say is, and what I mean by moons is the moon placements when they happen and the power they hold. I always say that a full moon is always about releasing. So if you want to work with the moon in any form of a way, when it's a full moon, write down what you want to release or speak out what you want to release and be very clear and honest about that, because it makes space for what's to come in. And the new moon is all about creating this new cycle and manifesting in what you want to attract within this new cycle. Now, because the new moon is on the very last degree of Taurus, it is all about calling in the money that you want, the love that you want, the luxury that you want. It's all about these beautiful, nice aspects that we haven't really had this year. And, you know, to talk about this year, it's 2023 that I'm talking about now. But again, if you listen to this at a different point, make sense of it of what you will. But at the start of, I would say, January 2022, there is a series of eclipses that happened in Taurus and Scorpio. Now, they're opposite ends. So you've got the grounded sign of Taurus, but then you've got the watery sign of Scorpio. So there's a real conflict between those two, and it represents the different nodes, the north node and the south node. And the south node is like your past, and the north node is your future. So that's why we were feeling so conflicted, because you're almost battling two parts of yourself. And that's why it felt really difficult, especially if you're a fixed sign. So a fixed sign is like Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. So these signs, if you have experienced turbulence throughout those kind of months, even up to the last one was at the beginning of May, they were, I mean, my whole life changed within those time frames, and it was turbulent and it was really hard. You know, I'd done a really deep healing journey dive when I was 29 to 30, and I relived again some of the things that I thought I dealt with in each eclipse. So it was almost like going through mini spiritual awakenings over and over again. It was so turbulent, but equally, what I know for sure in my life, you know, is just that everything, we have to go through it all in order to learn the lessons we need to learn. And for me, it's more that I can now teach, you know, it's more that lived experience. It's trying my tools and understanding what works and what doesn't work, and how I can help others, because I'm able to pull myself out of that darkness over and over again. And I think that's a really powerful thing for me. And I feel like, you know, you can all thank me. I go first, right? So I'm doing this work and really doing it from the bottom up, you know. And I think that's why, you know, my life's purpose now is to guide and to teach and to lead, you know, because I know how it feels to be that underdog and have not enough and be less than, you know. And that's from a really grounded place that I can say that. That's not from me having the insecurity or anything like that. That's the overview perspective of what my life has been. And I don't sit there anymore. So it's nice to look back at that and see it's been very hard, but equally it needed to be that way for the lessons that I can now teach to others and guide people out of their darkness and into the light. So going back to the astrology and the current transits, we've just had that new moon. So it's all about manifesting everything we want. If you haven't done it yet, you can still work with it. It's kind of past a little bit, but you can be mindful about what you want to call in for this new season. Now, Gemini is all about change. So we've gone from the fiery sign of Aries. That was like initiating ideas, having the ideas in our mind, wanting to create something big. And then it kind of gave us that little kickstart to do it. We then entered Taurus, where we started to put our ideas into action and implement them and like map things out and look at things from a very grounded and clear approach. Now entering Gemini, Gemini is all about change and evolving. It's a mutable sign, which means that it flows between. So it's an air sign. So it's very flowing. Everything can change at the last minute or the last second. And I think that's a great way to reflect back onto our ideas. You know, when we are building something, for example, things need to be moved around. We can't just keep it the original way. You know, like it's like you as a human being. If you kept the same morals and ideas that you've had your whole life, but you haven't been open to seeing a different point of view, for example, or looking at things from a different perspective, then you wouldn't grow into the best version of yourself. So, I mean, that might ring true for a lot of people. You might be hearing that and be triggered by it. And if you are, that is a sign that the work needs to be done, because we aren't meant to stay the same. You know, we're constantly evolving. So it's how can we add different aspects to our lives? How can we just tweak certain things? How can we evolve and step into that next version of ourselves? And that is the same with these ideas that have come up, whether it's creative, whether it's business, whether it's in relationships, or the way that you show up as a person. That's what it's all about. And actually, Taurus and this Taurus new moon was very, very connected to our ideal of self-worth. the Taurus new moon wanted you to look at, what did you learn through those eclipse phases? What was turbulent for you and what was hard, and what were the lessons you have to keep repeating? Like, for example, for me, when I was saying like my very big Saturn return and spiritual awakening happened between I was 29 and 30. So that again was repeating again. And that's boundaries. That's the idea of my own self-worth. It's who I am and how I show up. It's these things that are, for me, turbulent. And, you know, what I speak about myself a lot in all the work that I do, and even with manifestation, it's a byproduct of high and deep self-worth. And it's exactly the same with your boundaries. So if your boundaries are loose, if you feel like you let people kind of take the lead, or you people please, or you mold the situation and circumstance, and that doesn't feel good to you, but you're doing it anyway because you feel that's the right thing to do, you're almost going against what your soul wants. And this is your self-worth. What I say to my clients, and what's been very clear, I said it in the last episode as well, is about that case study you build for yourself. And that's how you build your self-worth, is by constantly showing yourself that you are consistent, you are able to show up for yourself. And that's what Taurus is all about. Taurus is the being. It's not about trying to do or work around. Like the Aries energy was very masculine, and it's push forward, take action. Whereas the Taurus is all about grounding in. It's about you being that version of yourself. Taurus also does not tolerate anything less than what it deserves. You know, that proud bull. And equally, it will charge if it needs to. So don't get it twisted. It has that delicate energy attached to it because of Venus, but equally, it doesn't mess around. You know, like in Taurus season, the cutoffs are real, you know, in every situation. And it's very important that we connect the self-worth to the boundaries and to the manifestations, because they are all part and parcel. If you want the very best life that you can dream of, everything tightens up through each stage of your journey. You know, you have to keep your boundaries strong every step of your elevation, because that's where you'll get tested the most. And it is a journey and it is hard. You know, I think if you're finding that that's something that you constantly have to work on, is your boundaries, it's a good thing, because it means you're growing. Because I think when we're younger, I think we assume that everything will always be easy, for example, in friendships or even in work and work relationships. You know, you think that everyone will always treat you the way that you treat them. And that has been my biggest lesson my whole life, is that people aren't always going to treat you how you treat them. And that's okay, because what I know for sure is the way we act and treat other people is down to our own self-worth. It's that mirror that I speak about all the time. So if you're finding that the people in your life aren't necessarily respecting you or treating you in a way that doesn't feel good, what are they going through right now? You know, and that's something that you can look at, is in what are they actually going through? And is it their character and who they are as a person? You know, that's what you have to look at, is if that person is, you know, constantly letting you down and constantly not supporting you or not being there for you, then that is probably who they are underneath. Whereas if something's happened and they're busy with work or there's a family issue, then you know it's down to the situation. But that's where that thing that I talk about, discernment, comes in. Now, discernment, as I've said before, is the softer element of judgment. So you're not judging the person, you're weighing out the situation, and also using your intuition within that feminine energy. We're still in this feminine energy space with the Gemini as well, moving into Gemini, that air sign. Things should feel a little bit lighter, but equally, it's like welcoming in this go with the flow energy that we all deserve. Another really beautiful transit that's happening at the moment as well is that Jupiter, the planet of expansion and abundance, is entering Taurus. It has entered Taurus. And it hasn't been in Jupiter. Jupiter hasn't been in Taurus, for 12 years. So this is a beautiful space to be in, because anything Jupiter touches, it expands. So again, that luxury element, the love element, the money and finances element, your career, all of these different things. And you can see exactly where this will influence you based on your chart. So, you know, I said the 12 houses. It's look to see what house that star signs in, because it's going to be a mixture. So for example, I'm a Leo. So that means that Taurus sits in my 10th house, which is all about career and work life. It also can represent travel and luxury for me and my career, all of these things. So that's for me where I'm looking at where Jupiter is going to affect my chart and my life, which is a really lovely space to be in, especially for me this last year, really pushing my business and the things that I'm doing. I'm really excited for that growth there, because it's been, a very uphill climb, as everything in my life has been, which I'm grateful for, but I'm really looking forward to that expansion happening, and anything Jupiter touches. And I've also got Jupiter as a planet in my first house. The planet, the first house is all about who you are. Now, I actually have 5 planets in my first house, which is very rare. So I'm super Leo. Like, you cannot get probably more Leo than I am. I've literally got 5 planets in Leo, and I also have my sun sign Leo and my rising sign in Leo as well. So if you don't know about your rising sign, your sun sign and moon sign, I'm going to just summarize it for you really quickly. So your sun sign is I am. So I am this. So for example, for me being a Leo, I am bold. I am a leader. I am energetic. I am fun. These are my things that I am in my soul and my being. And also, like, Leos are natural performers, natural showmen. They're happy to speak up. They can happy to sing. It's all of these different things that are connected to the Leo aspect. And then your rising sign is how you appear to other people. So for example, when people meet me, they think they probably see exactly who I am. They're like, oh, she's bubbly, she's yeah, mate. I mean, the downsides of that could be that they think I'm aggressive, because that's been my past for a long time, and I think I definitely have evolved with that. So that's the thing with star signs too, is they each have a light and a shadow. So with a Leo, for example, it could be being bossy, being assertive, that to a point where it's comes across as detrimental. Also, yeah, being self-absorbed, all of these things that, I'm not going to say that I'm not those things. I definitely have elements of them still in my life. And when I was definitely in my toxic masculine energy, for my whole life, I lived in those spaces, definitely ebbing and flowing throughout that. But now I can identify when it comes up myself and pull myself out of it when I need to. But equally, we're human, aren't we? And we're going to evolve through that. But your rising sign is how you appear to others. So sun sign is I am, rising sign is I appear, and your moon sign is how you think. So it's all about your thought processes and how you internalize things, how you emotionalize things. So for example, my moon is in Capricorn. So Capricorn is all about structure, it's planning, it's organizing, which works really well for me, because obviously being from a performing background, having multiple different jobs, and also being social, doing teacher jobs, all of these different things that I've done, I've been able to organize through my Capricorn moon. And that's served me so well. But equally, Capricorns aren't overly emotional. And that's what I've struggled with in my life, is expressing my emotions. So I'm quite happy to talk. I'm quite happy to be open about different things. Whereas the one block that I had in my life was being open with my emotions and expressing them. So I had to really work through that in order to get from the shadow into the light. So it just gives you a deeper understanding of yourself. And for me, I am that person that likes to ask questions. I do wonder why. And in the height of things being really difficult for me and understanding my own behavior patterns, I was like, there's got to be more. There's got to be an explanation for why I've done the things that I've done, or I fall into these habits, or attract these different people, because again, you are a mirror of your universe and of the people that are in your life. So what element of them is showing up in you? And the same, back and forth. It's just this ebb and flow of life, to be honest. And it's a really good way for you to take a look at yourself. If something's triggering you from another person, it's a good chance for you to look inward and say, am I jealous here? Am I offended? Am I upset? You can really tap in and do that. And this is where, again, my work, self-awareness, comes in, because a lot of us are thinking that things are happening to us. you know, like rows that we have at work or with a colleague or a manager, we think that, oh, they are this, they are that. But there is always an element, some small element that is mirroring back to you there. And it could be an insecurity of yours. So it could be that, you know, in a work setting, it could be that they are questioning your work and you know that you didn't put 100% into that bit of work. So for you, you're more triggered because you're like, they've seen through it. But equally, what's really important to remember in all of this is that some people are just mean for no reason. And that is okay too. As in, it's not okay, but that's where we discern whether, is it me? Is this a reflection of me? Or is it that person's drama that they're reflecting onto you? Because it works both ways, you know. It could be that they're insecure about their own way they show up, and so they're projecting it onto you. And I've had that cycle through my life constantly. And I think I'm in a position now where I can stand up for myself and say, no, that's not that. And that's my boundary. And that's something I've had to work really hard on. It's so easy for people to put the blame on me because I am a bold Leo, fiery, energetic person. It's so easy for people to say, oh, well, you did this or you did that or you came across this way. Actually, how you choose to take something is equally as important than how you choose to give it. And that needs to be the boundary, the fine line, the ebb and flow, the discernment. Because like I said, you know, sometimes bad day, bad timing, we're going to react in certain ways, but we're also going to take things in certain ways down to that. And that's why, you know, the self-awareness game, the discernment game, it's all really important. And it seems like a lot of things to do at once. I'm fully aware of that. But equally, it's even worse to just sit there in that victim mindset. You know, if we're constantly thinking that everyone's out to get us and, you know, it's always them and it's nothing to do with us, then we will keep perpetuating the same outcomes over and over again. Whereas if we can look at ourselves and be like, what part of me reacted to that, or what part of me created that pattern? And that's really where we have to do the work, you know, and this is the work. It's that sitting down for a moment and like pulling something apart to try and understand it. That really is it, you know. I feel like a lot of us probably replay. I know a lot of people that don't like confrontation replay arguments in their mind over and over again and like think about what they should have said and all of these things. But if you are a person that does that, it's worth writing it out. You know, it's worth writing out what the scenario was, what happened, how you felt about the situation. And then if you can, try and look at it from that other person's perspective. You know, try to look at it from their shoes. You know, are they going through a lot at the moment, like I said? Or are they jealous of you? Because sometimes that is okay too. And we're always, you know, and jealousy is, you know, if you listen to or read Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart, she gives you different variations. So jealous is when you think you deserve something over someone else, whereas envious is when someone has something that you want. So technically it's being envious, but it could also be that they just not meant for you, you know, especially like bosses and things like that. I feel like there's a balance, isn't there? Especially in like hierarchical positions. If they're coming down on you, who's coming down on them? You know, is their boss really bossy? And that's the way they've learned how to be a boss and in charge. That is something to look at. And equally, a conversation could be met by that. You know, it could be the fact that you say, oh, could we just have a discussion? And in that meeting, you could just say, I'm really sorry that my work wasn't up to scratch, but in future, is there another way we could address this situation? Because I felt attacked in that situation, or, you know, it's opening up the floor for these conversations to be had. And sometimes there's no conversation to be had, and you have to again discern that. If your boss has spoken to you badly for 5 years and you've chosen to stay at that place, then unfortunately that is on you. Because if you know that that's how that person is and you've chosen to stay in that situation and you feel anxious, you feel repressed, you feel depressed about the situation, you are self-perpetuating a cycle. You can leave. And I know that's scary, but equally, what's more scary is staying in that position and hating your life and being resentful, and then that triggering more mental health problems. Because a lot of us go through those situations in our life where we're so resentful of, the job that we're in, or, the people that we're working with, or even relationships with partners. I know so many people that have stayed with their partner for the sake of their children, or because they've been together a long time. Bad behavior, there is no excuse for. And when you start to do that inner work, when you start to understand your strengths and weaknesses, and your trigger points and all of these things, the people around you start to either mirror that, or you start to see them in a different light. And I think that's a very key point, because what I've learned for myself is that not every single person is supposed to go on your journey of life with you. And there's no malice intended with any of that. You can send people lovingly on their way, and you can love them from afar, wherever they are in their lives. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be that, I spoke about this in my Instagram live if anyone saw it, but it's almost like if you're a cruise liner, or like a beautiful ship, you're cruising on the ocean of life, but you've got lots of pirate ships that are just pulling you back or attacking you and blowing the cannons. At some point, you need to turn around and cut that cord, and they'll all go off in their own way. It doesn't even have to be pirate ships. It could be lifeboats. It could be the fact that in your nature as a people pleaser, you've tried to save all of these people. And because you've consistently saved everyone, they feel like they need you in order to survive. And they're almost sucking the blood out of you. It's like a vampire. It's like a leech. You have to have a boundary there. You can't give all the time to everyone. There has to be a boundary. And within that, you have to make sure your cup is always full first. And that really is the pinnacle of what this Taurus energy is all about. It is understanding and knowing that no more. I will not take any of those things that make me doubt myself, any of people's opinions, and those old beliefs that I have to do something more to be worthy. You are worthy now. Now, that takes work to understand that. And all of my programs that I offer, my one-to-one containers, I can work with you on that. So if that's something that really is niggling away at you, please do reach out to me for that. And equally, my journal as well, we unpack that in there. So that's something you could just get and do on your own. Or obviously, please feel free to reach out, because I'm more than happy to help you on that journey there. But it's just so important that we understand that self-worth is the key to everything in your life. And the astrology reflects that. And that's why it's so important, and why I see the connection with astrology and mindset work and self-worth and confidence building. For me, it all intertwines and it backs each other up. And that's the beautiful space of this energy for me, is understanding that. But equally, we'll all find a way for it to make sense for us. Like, I could be talking on this episode and you could be thinking, that makes absolutely no sense to me. I have no idea what you're talking about. And I apologize if that's the case. But equally, you might find another way. There's human design. There's another one called Destiny Matrix. There's numerology. There's all these different ways of like understanding and making correlations for it to feel like it makes sense to you, and it's a more complex way of understanding who you are. But equally, take what resonates in any situation. As I said, if this episode is, you're listening to it like a couple of weeks later or even a year later, it's about what resonates for you right now, because there's always going to be a Taurus season. There's always going to be a new moon. There's always going to be a Gemini season, and also as well, what's coming up astrologically for us is Mars is now in Leo. So again, Mars is the planet of war, but also the planet of action. And Leo is also a fire sign. So within this space, there could be the opportunity for arguments. But again, it's clearing that pathway for the life that does serve you. So be discerning, take everything with a pinch of salt, knowing that any arguments that happen in this time are happening because they're supposed to. And also with that energy, it's going to give you that get up and go again. So Taurus was slower paced. We've got the Gemini that's going to ebb and flow between. And think of the Mars energy of almost cutting through the middle and getting you from A to B, from where you're supposed to be. And enjoy that fiery push through this very airy, open space and time. And within that, the air fuels the fire. So it could be that or it blows it out, you know. So it's working with, again, everything is polarity, the shadow and the light always, and it's finding that for yourself. But if you feel stuck and you feel a bit lost right now, it's worth just checking in with yourself, like asking yourself that question: how am I feeling right now? Is there anything that is on my mind that is triggering me? Is there anything that I'm offended about, or something that someone's done to upset me? And what was my role to play in that? And it's looking at those things and pulling it apart, and then understanding, where does your worth come into that? You know, are you triggered by your friend that got a promotion because you wanted the promotion, but you didn't apply for it? So maybe it's you saying to yourself, you knew you wanted that, you should have done it, you know, but equally not shaming yourself. It's like, you know what? I felt triggered by that, but what it's done now is given me the confidence to push forward, to apply for it when it comes up again, or apply for something else, or apply for another job, because I am also worthy of having promotions and getting nice experiences. So that's where we have to discern and like turn things around. We can reframe everything to work to our advantage. I said this to one of my clients the other day. She suffers with anxiety, and I said to her, how can we use the anxious energy to fuel you and transmute it into confidence? So, you know, I worked with her to use that pent up energy in a really great way. So, as I always say, mental release, physical release. So it's almost using that anxiety to pump you up instead of stress you out. Because when we're anxious, we're fearing the future. So it's like, how can we use that energy and get ourselves really excited for something instead of being worried about it? And it worked really well. And she had a beautiful outcome to the situation. And it was a really exciting moment for her. And that was just lovely to witness. But I think that really is my gift as well. As I said, you know, going through these hard times in my own life and these constant struggles and things like that, I'm able to see emotional patterns and trigger points and, you know, the history of trauma and the history of someone's life, and to sort of join the dots together, as I said in the last episode. You know, I feel like that's really one of my gifts. And I'm grateful for that I can do that, because it's what's worked for me throughout my life. And equally, I'm not perfect. You know, I get things wrong and I offend people still. I do believe offence is taken and not given, but equally, I have a role to play in that. And I'm not trying to say that I'm always right, because I'm not. And I also hate that idea of being always right. I don't think anyone's really right, because they're, you know, is right depending on your opinion of the situation. And I think that's a really important thing as well. I think it's always worth just being kind, being open, and yeah, open to seeing things from a different perspective. But equally, more than anything in the whole world, is to know your self-worth, to understand your worthiness, and again, implement your boundaries based on that. And your boundaries are a result of your self-worth. So if you feel like you're constantly being let down or used or taken for granted, how can you tighten up your boundaries? And that comes down to how you feel about yourself, because your boundary is not accepting less than what you deserve and what you know you're worth. And that's just the bottom line in any situation. It doesn't have to be in a work situation. It could be in a romantic situation. It could be the fact that, you know, you keep asking your partner to wash up for you. When you've done the dinner, maybe you've cooked the dinner and they don't want to wash up. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to stop cooking then. You know, if I'm just going to cook my own dinner or do my own washing up, and then you do yours, because clearly you don't respect me enough to do that. Now, that's a very rubbish example, but it's an example nonetheless. You know, that is really what boundaries do tighten up to. You can't keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. You're going to always get the same result. Tighten the boundaries, and then you'll see how quickly they might want to do the washing up because they don't want to cook. So there you go. You have to sometimes flip the switch and flip the script. There's no right or wrong. And it's all about learning. You know, how can we learn through this situation? How can we mold this situation to make it work to our advantage, really? And that's, like I said, where the astrology plays a key part for me, because I feel like equally sometimes when I'm feeling a bit shadowy or a little bit off, I can look at the placements and be like, okay, that makes sense. Even we just come out of Mercury retrograde, you know, and that affects technology and communication. And it's, again, it just reflects all of these different things that we're feeling. So when we have that clarity and understanding of what's going on in the skies, we can then give ourselves the confidence to go forward and understand, you know, our own patterns and how that is reflective, one, of the astrology, but two, of how we feel about ourselves. And that's the bottom line again. How we feel about ourselves is a reflection of our lives as a whole. So always remember that you are the mirror to your universe, and your self-worth is reflective of everything and everyone in your life. So if you do feel like you're in a position where you are being taken for granted or used, or you don't feel appreciated, how can you appreciate yourself more? How can you implement your boundaries more? How can you show up for yourself more? And if that means that you have to let some situations go or change where you are, that is part of life. You're not a tree. You haven't got roots at the bottom of your feet. You can move. And there's a beautiful world that we live in here that we can keep ebbing and flowing for. But to summarize, we are about to enter a beautiful, expansive energy. And I say we're about to enter, we're in it now. So Jupiter's going to be in Taurus for a whole year. So whatever house it's in, as I said, is going to expand, and it's going to just affect it in a really beautiful, positive way. So this really is a turning point for so many people, especially fixed signs. So get ready to receive and be open to receive. And all of the things that are crumbling at the moment, know that they're crumbling away, because the best part is yet to come, and it's coming. It's there, it's written, it's done. So get excited about it, because you deserve it and you are absolutely worthy of it all. And the more worthy you feel, the more you're going to receive. So really do tune into that. And as always, I'm here to support and share my wisdom and love and light with you always. So please do reach out. I'll pop the link to my journaling as always, and my link to my 90-minute call if anyone does want to catch up and just, you need help. But lots of love, everyone. And happy new moon in Taurus, and happy Jupiter in Taurus, and all these beautiful energies coming in. This really is the start of summer and the start of a beautiful, amazing energy shift. So I hope you can feel it, and I look forward to catching up with you soon. Lots of love.
Sherisse Bisram, Inner Power Activation Leader for Women. If you are ready to up-level, to elevate, to ignite your inner flame, to burn everything you once were, to trailblaze into your future, into all of your manifestations and more, then head to my website to book a free 30-minute alignment call. I have one-to-one containers available for 90 days and 180 days. I also have an online program for 6 weeks. It's a group program for women called Permission to Shine. That's also available as a self-study as well. I have a journal available on Etsy as well as worksheets. There's multiple ways to work with me, and I'm here to help you. You deserve to shine, to be the most amazing, most confident, fearless version of yourself. What are you waiting for?